Zephara the Centaur Princess, Part 1. Hidden within a thicket, deep in the Orestian forest, a pure white centauress labored to give birth. But she did not labor alone, for this youngling would be offspring of the king and heir to the throne. Under the anxious gaze of 3 old and wise centauresses, tiny Zephara slid into the world and opened her eyes to the stinging light. Watery images shimmered and swam before her. "Oh, Lily, she's going to be striking," said a voice somewhere to Zephara's right. "She'll have your light hair and tail and her father's black body." "Better get her standing," a sterner voice replied, "and remember, she must do it on her own." Zephara's mother gave her a gentle nudge. Somehow the youngling knew she must stand on the long things that stuck out from her body. She tried to gather them beneath her and push, but only her back end came up and she landed nose first in the grass. "Oh dear, the front end usually comes up first." Zephara turned in the direction of the harsh voice and found the creature strange indeed. Like the others behind her, she had a head and arms, but her body was covered with hair, and the end of a tail fluttered in the breeze. "Oh, they're centaurs, darling," her mother whispered, "like you and me." Zephara ignored them as she worked to hitch up her rear until her tail stood straight in the air, but when she pushed with her front legs, they collapsed underneath her, sending the youngling head over heels. "They don't mean to be unkind, you know," Lily responded to the centauress's giggles, but Zephara ducked her head beneath her crooked foreleg and hid the stinging tears that fell from her eyes. "Let me have a look at her, Lily," the centauress the others called Damia murmured. "I've seen some younglings who—" Zephara watched as her mother pushed herself to her feet and trotted over to stand beside the older centauress. She was a mountain of an animal and very ugly. Zephara hated the way the older centauress's squinty eyes raked across her body and pored over her misshapen legs. When Damia spoke at last, there was ice in her voice. "Listen to me, Lily. This is hard, I know, and such a shame. The youngling would have been lovely, but I've seen this kind of thing before, and it's never good. She will not make it through the night." "What do you mean?" Lily stepped toward her youngling, pushing Damia to the side. "I don't care one whit if her legs are twisted. She's my daughter, and she's beautiful." "She can't stand, Lily. She cannot nurse," Damia said coldly. "I will lie down to nurse her then, if I must." "You know that's not the centaur way. Leave her. She will be gone before the sun rises." "My daughter is the crown princess, and don't you forget it. The king's own offspring. So take your dour predictions and go." Lily stepped toward the overbearing centauress with her eyes flashing and her nostrils flaring. Damia tipped her hawkish nose into the air, flipped her ragged mane, and minced off toward her friends. But before leaving the thicket she turned to state coldly, "The clan will never protect such a one, and the king will not acknowledge her." Lily turned her back as if she had not heard, but Zephara could see her mother's skin tremble. "And what will you do when the wolves come, Lily? Give your life for a child that cannot walk, let alone run?" She did not answer, did not even turn, simply lifted her chin to the sky as her beautiful cream-colored tresses blew about her shoulders. When the sound of hooves stirring the forest leaves no longer met her ears, Lily fell to her knees, rolled onto her side, and nickered. "You are a princess, my Zephara. Some day you will be the most beautiful queen the forest has ever known, and you will gallop like the west wind." Zephara nuzzled until she found her mother's warm milk, then drank her fill and fell asleep. She awoke to a darkened world, with her mother's alert body standing over her. 2 red specks of light danced toward them through the night. In less than an instant Lily exploded into action, rearing high into the air and coming down again and again on something that snarled, snapped, and smelled awful. Her rock-hard hoofs struck deep into the raging ball that slashed at her fetlocks with razor-sharp teeth. Zephara could see their whiteness flash through the blackness of the night. When at last the thing lay still, Lily whirled and kicked it high into the trees with her powerful back legs. She was limping when she returned to lie beside Zephara in the grass, and her body trembled from head to hoof. Zephara could smell the blood of the demon creature on her legs. A wolverine was all Lily said, but Zephara knew it had been a monster, and that her mother had saved her from certain death. When the morning sun crept over the tops of the trees, she awoke to find her mother no longer at her side. Soon her anxious eyes found Lily some distance away, chopping at the white bark of a birch tree with something sharp. As she watched, Lily removed 2 pieces of bark that wrapped quite naturally into rolls. She pulled bunches of soft underbark from the scarred area. Then she returned the sharp object to the jeweled pouch she carried at her waist, and trotted back. "All right, Zephara," she said, as she lowered herself beside the youngling. "Let's see what we can do about those crooked little legs of yours." Her mother's hands were skilled and gentle. After wrapping soft underbark around her crippled legs, she pulled open the rolls of birch bark and let them curl themselves around Zephara's legs from her knees to her hooves. Then she secured them carefully with tough vines. "Now let's try it again," she said. "But this time push up with your front legs first and then with your back." They were stiff and stuck out in front like tree limbs. She couldn't imagine standing on such clumsy things, but when she pulled herself up they held her weight. Soon she found herself sitting the way she had seen her mother do before she lifted herself up. "Now get your hind legs under you," Lily said. It was a bit of a trick to get her legs to do as they were told, but when at last she found herself standing spider-like on 4 shaky legs, Zephara knew she had done something incredible. Making her legs move one at a time was another matter, but soon she was standing to eat the real centaur way, and by the time the sun shone high over their heads, Zephara was walking about the thicket on stiff, shaky legs. "I think it's time to join the clan," her mother said.